Alright guys, so a very popular question here, the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus versus the S23 FE. So which phone should you buy? Which phone is better? Let's go ahead and get into it here. So I want to start off with the price. So you can find a S23 FE for around $360, so it's around that upper $300 price point. Now the S22 Plus, it's a phone that you can find for a little bit cheaper. So you can find this phone for around $289, so it'll be like in the upper 200s. And this is in the renewed refurbished marketplace as well too. So it is a much cheaper phone, to buy, if you're on like a tight budget. So is it worth it to spend the extra money and get the S23 FE? So let's go ahead and find out here. So hardware wise, these phones are pretty similar. So the S22 Plus kind of has the older design. As you can see, the S23 has kind of like the newer camera setup. It has a newer look to it, but there are some benefits with the S22 Plus. It has the matte finish, so it does not really pick up fingerprints at all. And then you have the glossy back on the S23 FE, which it is going to show like smudges and stuff like that. So I think that's one benefit, but besides that, they're pretty much the same as far as how they feel and how they look. For the most part, they're both IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. And yeah, I don't think there's a big difference. They're almost about the same thickness too and height. So not a big difference when it comes to hardware besides those two like little minor things. All right, so let's talk about the display. So there are some differences here. So the S22's display, it does have a bigger display here at 6.6 inches. Now you probably can't really tell, but it is a bigger panel slightly. It's 6.6 inches. You do also have dynamic AMOLED display, 120 Hz HDR10 plus. It's 1750 nits peak brightness, and it's 1080p 393 for the PPI. Now the S23 FE has a slightly smaller 6.4 inch display. It's also dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10 plus, but it has a lower max brightness of 1450 nits peak brightness, and again 1080p 403 for the PPI. Now the thing that'll stand out the most is actually the bezels here. So as you can see, you do have much slimmer bezels on the S22 Plus. Not so much at the top, but it's just slimmer all around, but you could definitely see it at the bottom here. Now as far as the color, they both look identical as far as the quality of the panel, but like I said, you will notice a slight difference in direct sunlight. On the S22 Plus, it's just going to be a little bit brighter as well, and like I said, it is visually better to look at because it's got those slimmer bezels. So I would say the S22 Plus actually has the better display, and it is slightly bigger as well too. And again, that's a personal preference for the most part, whether you want a bigger or smaller display. Alright, so let's talk about the software real quick. So this is important. So the S22 Plus, it launched with Android 12. So the S23 FE, it launched with Android 13. So it will get an extra year of MajorOS updates than the S22 Plus. Now they are bringing the Galaxy AI features to the S22 lineup. Now the Galaxy AI features have already come to the S23 FE, so you're gonna get most of the features on the S22 Plus, I think, except for like one thing, and I can't remember, but it might be like the hold down slow motion video or something like that. It might be that, but it'll get majority of the essential features like the circle to search and all that good stuff, that you like about the the AI features. So that's really good. So you're not missing out really on anything when it comes to the software. Besides, again, you get that extra year of updates with the S23. Alright, so let's talk about the performance here. So the S23 FE has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor. Both of these are running Android 14. This one's on One UI 6.1 though. The update hasn't come for this one yet. But yeah, so you do have 128 gigs of internal storage on the S23 FE. And then you also have 8 gigs of RAM. The S22 Plus, this does have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 as well too. And again, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. So you have the same processor on here. So, and again, the processor is pretty good, but that was kind of like the thing about the S23 FE. Samsung launched it with an older processor. Now this processor isn't bad at all, but they're virtually the same in terms of speed and performance. You will not really notice a difference. If there is a difference, it's because it's One UI 6 update, 6.1 update, so it might feel a little bit snappier or whatever. But as far as overall performance here, they're virtually the same, guys. So if you're like thinking about like gaming and benchmarks, it's the same thing. Now let's go into PUBG here. Alright, so when we get to PUBG here, there's one thing that you'll notice with the S22 FE, and that it is a little bit better optimized for gaming. So it has the 90 frames on PUBG here, and like I said, it's got the same processor, but the S23 FE is not optimized yet. I'm not sure why, but it could be, you know, optimized in the future. But for right now, there's no like 90 frames option. So I'm not saying that it's a better gaming phone because it's the same, you know, chipset. But yeah, the optimization is going to be better on the S23 FE, and I noticed that with a couple other games. But essentially, the gaming performance is going to be the same. But for right now, the S22 does play a little bit better. All right, we got these speakers at max volume. We're going to start with the S23. So it's pretty interesting here. So the S23 FE has a louder bass, but the sound is a little bit cleaner on the S22 Plus. But the bass is lacking on the S22 Plus in comparison. So I think that's pretty interesting in itself. Both speakers are pretty good. It's kind of hard to say which one sounds better. I don't think one really sounds that much better than the other. You know, they're not the best speakers I've heard, you know, from Samsung. Yeah, I like how clean this sounds, but there's no bass really, or very little. This has a lot of bass, but it's not as clean. So I don't know. You know, it kind of depends on the preference there. Now, when it comes to the fingerprint scanner, this is something that you definitely will notice. The ultrasonic fingerprint scanner is on here. Basically, it's faster. You lightly touch it, and it'll register. The optical one on the S23 FE is pretty fast as well, but it's not one of those ones that you can like lightly touch. It's not like the ultrasonic one. And again, that's very like a small thing, but you know, you have to point that out. So yeah, the fingerprint scanner is better on the S22 Plus for sure. Alright, so let's talk about the cameras here. So on the S22 Plus here, it's a 15 megapixel standard and a 10 megapixel telephoto. Has 3 times optical zoom with a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 8K 24, and then you have a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. On the S23 FE, you have a 15 megapixel standard and 8 megapixel telephoto lens, and that does, you know, 3 times optical zoom, and then you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. This shoots in 8K 24 with a 10 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 60. So pretty similar specifications when it comes to the cameras. So let's go ahead and check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know if you notice a big difference here. so when it comes to the overall battery life of these two phones, I think the battery situation is definitely a little bit better on the S22 Plus, only because this phone charges, I think, noticeably faster. It has a 45-watt charger versus the 25-watt charging capability of the S23 FE. They both have the same battery size at 4,500 milliamps, and they both do wireless and reverse wireless charging. So again, essentially the same battery performance. It's just this one charges a little bit faster. But yeah, I'm not noticing like a big battery difference. I think they both do pretty good on battery life, especially if you're not like a hardcore gamer or anything like that. I've never had either of these phones die in a day or anything like that. So battery life is pretty solid on both of these phones. So it's pretty interesting. Which phone would you pick? There's not a lot of advantages that the S23 FE has over the S22 Plus. The only real advantage here is that it gets an extra year of software updates for the most part, and that's pretty much it. I don't think that it has like any real major advantages. I think the S22 Plus is the better phone. It's cheaper, and if you're willing to sacrifice, that update, then I think it's overall the more polished and better experience phone you're getting here. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.